before I call the meeting officially to order. Good? Huh? You're good? Okay. All right. We will start the meeting immediately after the invocation. For those who'd like to participate, please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask your presence in our meeting with staff, contractors, and community citizens this evening. Guide us and provide us the wisdom to listen intently, collectively have civil dialogue with all, and make decisions with discernment that will result in what is best for all. Please protect and keep our neighbors during the recent and upcoming frigid weather and ourselves as well. Please remain with all our first responders and men and women in uniform throughout the world during this time as they diligently provide for our safety and well-being. We ask you to guide and provide our national leaders your intervening wisdom provided to them to make decisions that are best for all in our nation. We remain faithful in your guidance to all our world leaders as well in their quest for peace. Through you, we are assured this can be achieved. As we live our daily lives, dear God, may we remain steadfast in your blessings of love. For as is written in 1 John chapter 3, verses 16 through 20, this is how we know what love is. If anyone has material possessions and sees his brother in need but has no pity on him, how can the love of God be in him? Dear children, let us not love with words or tongue, but with actions and truth. This then is how we know that we belong to the truth, and how we set our hearts at rest in his presence whenever our hearts condemn us. For God is greater than our hearts, and he knows everything all the time. In your holy name we pray these things. Amen. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll call this meeting at 6:04 p.m. on 2/2/26. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Mayor, could I make a couple of very quick announcements?
Yes, sir.
People
Please
are
do.
wondering. Commissioner Green informed me that she's not going to be able to attend the meeting tonight. She's feeling a bit under the weather. And Mayor Bailey just informed me a few minutes ago that she's going to be about 10 to 15 minutes late. Okay. So I wanted people to know that. And then the other thing, when I crafted this agenda, I just basically went off of what we've done in previous agendas. So Mayor Bailey brought this to my attention that about some of the things on there like public comment a couple of times. I just want to point out however you want to run that, but feel free certainly to change the order because the only thing on the agenda is the audit report. So I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Manager. With that note, in our absence of one commissioner and just the late arrival of the other, I'll entertain a motion to excuse the absence of Commissioner Green due to illness.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
No.
Any comments from constituents in the audience? Hearing none, let's go to a vote. All those in favor of excusing Commissioner Green due to illness and Vice Mayor Bailey being a few minutes late, say aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Nays like sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Mr. Martin, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda, or it's?
No, sir. Only the about the potential of public comment a couple of times since that's something that Mr. Bailey brought to my attention. I'll let you handle that, sir. But it might be to hear the audit report and then take that rather than the 2 times that you normally do. But that's up to you.
Okay. We'll follow the agenda, just to do the brief shortness of it. It'll be all right, I think. By consensus, we're okay with that? Okay. Adoption of the agenda, I'll entertain a motion.
I forget what I'm supposed to say. I have a motion to adopt the agenda. I feel like that's not what I'm supposed to say. But you said.
Yeah, just,
Mayor Hope, I move to adopt the
Move,
agenda.
thank you. Thank you. That's what I needed.
All right, or
I
so-
moved to adopt the agenda.
Or as I do many times, so moved, and then the person is caught, whoever said it. That'll work too. All right, I have a first from Commissioner Fiore, a second from Commissioner Penny. Any further comments regarding the agenda tonight? Anyone from the constituents in the audience regarding the agenda? Hearing none, let's go to a vote. All those in favor of the adoption of the agenda as written, say aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Nays like sign. Motion carries. Our only guest this evening will be our contracted auditors. Thank you for being here, Mr. Perla, again. We're going to do public announcement and the first comment, and then you're on, okay, even though that's reverse. But are there any public announcements this evening? Just to update us in the community. That's always first and most important, besides all the other business. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Green.
It's just an announcement. On May 9th, we plan to have a train day, and it's going to be similar to the format of the Yulee Day, but we don't call it that anymore. And Linda Schnur, our librarian and a member of the Historical Society, is going to coordinate that. So we want all organizations, everybody to participate on that day. Now,
Okay.
our event will be at the depot from like 9 to 2 or soon afternoon. And I know it's the Mother's Day Festival Day also, but they start at 12 o'clock, but there's enough people in Archer to do two things.
Yeah.
And this is not the same type thing anyway. But then at 2 o'clock, Johnny Nelson will do trains, something about rails, some trails or something. It's a pretty lengthy presentation that he did at the Matheson a couple of years ago, and that will be at the library at 2
Okay.
o'clock. May 9th.
And y'all will put that in the newsletter? Or
Yes,
it's-
we'll be talking
And
about
maybe
it
a
between now and
flyer that you could get to the city as we approach that time? Maybe just advertising it, so we can
Yeah,
put it on the
we do want
website?
to.
I mean, if anybody's in the,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am, thank you. Anybody else for public announcements?
Mayor Hope, may I make a comment to Ms. Green's?
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you for sending the Depot newsletter.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to let you know that I forwarded that on. I was talking with a reporter from the Gainesville Sun, so I forwarded your email with the newsletter to them to see if they can make anything bigger out of it.
Good.
Thanks.
That's the beginning of a book. That's why it's so lengthy.
It's okay.
We don't send all of that out to everybody,
Yeah.
but we want the city to know all about it.
Thank you, Commissioner Fiore. Anyone else? Public announcements? Okay. Public comment period, number 1. Good evening, Ms. Costello.
Good evening. I was wondering, is the auditor's going to review the audit? Is it going to be on the TV or PowerPoint or anything that we can follow?
Not that I know of this evening. Is the updated one, revised one, put on the website this afternoon, or is it the original one?
The original one is on there, I don't have this one.
Okay.
I'll pick it up for sure.
Yeah, and we have, yeah.
Yeah, I can share if needed, and, okay, thanks.
Commissioner Green's not be here, so we'll let you have that one. We'll get another one.
Here.
Yeah, and I think we'll be good, so. Anyone else?
If anyone else wants one, I've got mine on the computer screen, I can look at this.
Okay. Anyone else? We have one additional copy. And premature introductions, this is Mr. Barber, again joining us this evening. Thank you, sir, for your time and service. All right. Our guest now is the audit report. Thank you, Mr. Perla. You're on.
Okay, thank you guys for having me. Once again, my name is Caleb Perla. I'm one of the 50/50 partners at Powell & Jones CPA, and I'm going to be covering your September 30th, 2024 audit. So keep in mind, obviously 2024, September 30 was a little while back, so this is kind of from a previous time, different accountant and city manager at the time. I'm going to start on page 5 of the report, which is the independent auditor's report. This has our opinion of the financial statements. In the opinion paragraph, it says, we have audited the financial statements of the city of Archer, Florida as of and for the year ended September 30th, 2024. And in the second paragraph, it says, "We do not express an opinion on the financial statements of the city because of the significance of the matter described in the basis for disclaimer of opinion section of our report." If you look a couple paragraphs down, you'll find the basis for disclaimer of opinion paragraph. It states here, "During our audit, we found that the reconciliation between the city's water and solid waste revenues recorded in its accounting software and its utility billing software had material variances. We also found that there were miscellaneous expenses which in aggregate were material to the financial statements, which we could not obtain supporting documentation from the city. Finally, there were material grant-related expenditures and reimbursements for which the city was unable to provide any supporting documentation." Moving on to page 8. This is management's discussion and analysis. This is a broad overview of the financial data within this report. If you're looking for something more summarized to read, this would be somewhere you could start and read on your own. I'm going to move on to page 16. Page 16 is the governmental fund balance sheet, which you only have one governmental fund, which is the general fund. This shows your assets and your liabilities and the difference between those, which are your fund balances, or essentially the city's net worth for the year end. For assets, you had cash of $272,000, accounts receivable of $32,000, and amounts due from other funds of $244,000, bringing total assets to $549,000. For liabilities, or what you owe, you had accounts payable of $37,000 and accrued liabilities of $212,000. The lion's share of that is your payroll taxes that were outstanding. Total liabilities were $250,000. Next, we have your fund balances, or essentially your net worth. These are segregated into multiple different components. You have amounts that are restricted for transportation of $549,000, infrastructure of $54,000, culture and recreation $143,000. That's wild spaces, public places. And then your unassigned balances, which is a negative $448,000. So you have a deficit fund balance, very substantial here, which is very concerning. Total fund balances net altogether were $299,000. This is presented on the modified accrual basis of accounting, which aligns with your budgetary practices, but also has a conversion to the full accrual basis of accounting below this, where we add back in certain long-term assets and liabilities, primarily your capital assets, which were $1.5 million, deferred inflows and outflows of resources, which netted $39,000, and then taking out your long-term liabilities of $467,000. Bringing the total net position or net worth on the full accrual basis of accounting to $1,469,000. Moving on to the next page. Page 17 has the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. This is essentially like an income statement in for-profit accounting or profit and loss statement. This shows your revenues and your expenditures, so money in, money out, and the difference between those, or the change for the year. For revenues, I'm going to touch on some of the larger revenues, which are your property taxes of $283,000, other taxes of $362,000. You had intergovernmental revenues of $173,000, franchise fees of $81,000. Total revenues were $973,000. Next, we have your expenditures. These are broken out by functional categories. You have your general governmental expenditures, which were $713,000. Physical environment, $9,000. Transportation, $413,000. And culture and recreation, $106,000. Next, we have amounts expended for long-term capital assets called capital outlay, which was $44,000. And then finally at the bottom, we have your debt service, principal, and interest, which together were about $23,000. Total expenditures altogether were $1,310,000. When you take that away from the $973,000 in revenues, you're left with a deficit of $337,000. But you did have transfers in from your enterprise fund of $205,000, which decreased the deficit to $131,000 deficit for the year. This represents approximately 13% of your revenue. So basically, for every dollar brought in, you're losing 13 cents. You're spending over that dollar that you get in. You spend $1.13. Okay. Moving 2 pages back, we have your proprietary funds statement of net position on page 19. Once again, you have your assets and your liabilities and the difference between those, which in this case is called net position, essentially your net worth for the year. This is just for your proprietary funds, which is your water and solid waste funds, and it has a total as well. I'm going to just cover the totals here. For your current assets, which are amounts that can be used within 1 year, is $569,000. Next, you have restricted assets, which is your meter deposit account of $54,000, and then we have your capital assets, which were $3.6 million. Total assets altogether were $4,266,000. You also had some deferred inflows related to your pension. And next, we have your liabilities. I'm going to cover some of your current liabilities. First, you had accounts payable of $528,000, amounts due to other funds of $373,000. Total current liabilities altogether were $980,000. Next, we have your non-current liabilities. The lion's share of those is your line of credit, which was $821,000. The total non-current liabilities were $985,000. Total liabilities altogether, both current and non-current, were at $1,965,000. When you take that away from your assets and factor in your deferred inflows and outflows, you're left with a net worth of $2,315,000. Moving on to the next page, we have your proprietary funds statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. This is similar to an income statement in for-profit accounting. This once again splits out your water and solid waste fund. I'm going to cover each one of those funds one at a time now. For your water fund, you had operating revenues of $330,000, and you had operating expenses of $569,000. This created a deficit of $239,000. You did get some grant revenue of $361,000, and then also transferred out $205,000, which created non-operating income of $156,000 net, which created a total loss of $82,000 for this fund. Okay. Next, moving on to the solid waste fund, you had operating revenues of $124,000. You had operating expenses of $114,000, which created a increase of $10,000 for the year. The net between the water and solid waste funds was a decrease for the year of $72,000. Okay. I will note here, though, on the water fund, just to kind of give a little bit more analysis, if you look at that depreciation expense of $55,000, that doesn't necessarily isn't necessarily a cash expense. Okay, so when you add that back in, that 239, is still quite substantial, but it's still a little bit less than that 200,000 mark when you factor that back in. And but when you add back in those transfers out, it's pretty bad. So you still need to work on trying to bring that back up. Next, we have your statement of cash flows on page 21. This shows that you had a net change in cash about 3/4 of the way down of $91,000 decrease for the year, which brought your total cash from $241,000 down to $150,000 as of year end. At the very bottom of this page, you'll see this little note, and it's on all these financial statements. It says, see notes to financial statements. The financial statements, as you can see here, are just account names and numbers. They don't tell you very much detailed information. That starts in the notes section, which is 2 pages further back on page 23. I'm not going to cover this section in detail as it's quite lengthy, but it is here for further reference if you want to see more information on things like long-term debt or like your line of credit or your fixed assets. It has other supporting information as well. We're going to move back to page 50 though. Page 50 is the last page of your budgetary comparison schedule for the general fund. It shows what you budgeted for the year, about 2/3 of the way down or in the middle of it. Shows that, yes, page 50. Okay. On page 50, it shows that your total expenditure is about midway through. You budgeted $1,010,000, and you spent $1,310,000. So you had a $300,000 over expenditure based on what you budgeted. If you look down towards this third up from the bottom, we have your net change in fund balance. This includes both your budgeted revenues and your expenditures. Shows that you budgeted to have basically a flat zero for the year, no increase or decrease, but instead you had a decrease in actual results of $131,000. Moving on, let's go to page 63. This is in the management letter. This is where we do our financial condition assessment and our assessment of financial emergency status. For the financial condition assessment, which is the first paragraph, you see about halfway through it says the city had deteriorating financial conditions. We had this noted in the prior audit as well. And below this we have tables that show some of the summary of the condition over time. First, we have a table for your enterprise fund, which shows losses well over $100,000 for the past 4 years, and the last 2 years exceeding $200,000. Next, we have your general fund, which shows multiple years trend, but you can see in the last 2 years you had deficits of $268,000 and $337,000 in the general fund as well. For in the next paragraph, we have this financial emergency status. We determined that the city had met the conditions described in Florida statutes, which resulted in a financial emergency. The city had a deficit unassigned fund balance of $448,000 in the general fund and had 14 months of outstanding payroll taxes that were unpaid as of fiscal year end, and the city was unable to pay as of year end at that point in time. Okay, so that condition remains as of the end of this year. Moving on to page 68. Here we have your schedule of findings. This is where we note any issues that we encountered during the audit or problems that we've seen with the records and other things. Most of these findings are repeats from the prior year. We might have done some updates to the language, but most of the conditions remained, primarily because the same accountant and manager were in place for essentially the whole entire fiscal year that were in place the previous audit. So a lot of these conditions are the same. We did add a few things. I'm going to just kind of read through the titles of these, and if you guys have questions, I can give you more detail, because there are quite a few of them here. If you'd like me to go in a little more detail, I can. Just let me know and I can reboot. Okay? So 2024-1 was on utility revenue recognition, recording, and reconciliation discrepancies. Basically, the revenues in the utility system were not matching up to what was in the accounting system in a material way. Next, 2024-2, miscellaneous expenses. We had multiple miscellaneous expenses, which had no detail in the accounting ledger, and we weren't able to get backup for those outside of what we could see in the bank statements themselves. Okay. Moving on to number 3, is bank reconciliation discrepancies and timeliness. Basically, bank reconciliations did not agree with the books. We were able to make them agree, but they were not done on an ongoing basis or accurately, which was an issue. Number 4 is off-book accounts and transactions. The line of credit and the associated bank accounts that you guys have for the construction projects that you had going on that were grant funded was not recorded in the books at all. It was just completely excluded. We had to add that activity back in. It was just completely out. Delinquent payroll taxes, number 5. I think you guys are pretty well aware of that situation. As of the year end there, the taxes for the whole entire year had not been paid, which had accumulated up to $177,000. Number 6 on page 71, year-end cutoff, just bills not being put in the correct year and other timing issues just that need to be taken care of accounting-wise to make sure things are in the right place. Number 7 is segregation of duties. There's inadequate segregation of duties. I think we see this continuing to be a problem in the year after this, where you guys had fraud occur with theft related to your utility billing system. Just that is continue. This was an issue during this time frame. The internal control is just not being sufficient. Okay. Number 8, recording of utility usage. They were unpaid amounts for some extended period for some customers, and some customers were being charged a minimum amount because of broken or damaged equipment, such as meters. Number 9, internal balances and transfers. Basically, enterprise fund expenses were being paid for out of the general fund, and entries to allocate expenses were not being made. And so the allocation of expenses between those funds to give a true picture of, hey, this is what's general fund, this is what's in your water fund, is not really a very clear picture because stuff's kind of intermingled. And number 10, tracking of employee paid time off balances. We noted some issues with PTO in the prior audit. The balances from that audit weren't incorporated into the records in QuickBooks, and they weren't adjusted to those balances or corrected in some other form or fashion as far as we're aware as of year end. And so that remains on there. Number 11, financial statement preparation. This is a kind of a standard finding for small governments who don't have CPAs on board, that you guys don't have the staff capable to prepare financial statements in accordance with GAAP. Number 12 is internal controls over fuel. There were internal control issues that we noted in the prior audit, which had not been corrected because, like I said, the prior audit was quite late, and so there was no time to really correct those issues before this audit period. And then 13, potential water system leakage and inefficiency. There was water line loss that we had determined in the prior audit. We actually weren't able to get supporting documentation for this audit to prove whether that was continuing to be the case, but assuming that nothing has changed there, that audit finding remains because we can't prove otherwise. Number 14, general care of financial records. Just generally, we see quite a few deficiencies in the way financial records are being kept and the accounting's being done. There's quite substantial issues that need to be corrected, and the city needs to take action to get that fixed. Number 15, on page 75, water account adjustments. We noted adjustments in the prior and current year to utility accounts. There was no process to say, hey, we approve this adjustment or not. Once again, this is a time-related issue. You may have something in place now, but there just wasn't a process in place to approve those formally during this audit period. And then finally, we have number 16, which is a compliance issue related to the budget because you guys overexpended your budget, which is not compliant with Florida statutes. And number 17, restricted fund balances. We noted that there are certain restricted funds that needed to be segregated from other balances and tracked, which were not, which caused you to have deficit fund balances. This concludes my audit presentation. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Mayor, I do. Okay. Thank you, Caleb, for answering the questions by email from the other week. I do have some follow-up, and I sent you some additional emails, but I didn't get any response, so I'm going to ask you here. So one of my questions was in relationship to the adjustments, and you noted that you provided the city manager with those adjustments. So is Loretta able to make those adjustments in our accounting software for the beginning balances and year-end balances according to those entries that you were provided?
I'm not 100% sure on that right now, to be perfectly frank with you. I'll have to get with her and find out exactly what's happening there.
Okay, thank you. You note that in the audit that miscellaneous expenses, so I asked for a copy of what those miscellaneous expenses entailed, and thank you for providing that. And some of the items in there were things like Ameris loan payment, so return checks, so those seem like really obvious. I know that we're coded as miscellaneous and that should not be the case, but did did you pull those out and put them to the correct GLs? Or you kept everything in this miscellaneous account that was provided to you?
I'd have to look back at our adjusting records and see. I can't tell you right off the top of my head what my staff person did on that. But I do know that there are several items in there, which is why we had the finding that just said miscellaneous. I think you probably would have seen that in there that just didn't have any descriptions at all. It just said miscellaneous, and they're quite large.
Yeah, they are quite large. Some were obvious what they were, but some, 16. So the audience knows like $16,800 just miscellaneous with no backup. 11,800 miscellaneous with no backup. Those are some of the large numbers that is being referenced. The leave balance by employee concerns me because I don't know if we've corrected that. So John, that's something that I put in the note to you that needs to be addressed immediately, especially for 25, before we get into this new audit to make sure that is being calculated correctly. Again, that should be in your software. That should be an easy calculation. So if staff needs help, either get with the auditors or ask for how to do that formula. I would appreciate that. So you answered my one question where the Wild Spaces funds are sitting, so thank you, because I didn't know exactly where those were sitting. Some new questions I have, and then the write-offs for the water. I requested last audit to see what that listing of write-offs were, and I requested that again this year, and Caleb sent me that list, and so I cross-referenced the fiscal year 23 and fiscal year 24 write-offs, and I found two accounts that were a little concerning that keep appearing in both years. There were small ones that appeared in both years, but I provided the city manager with what those two accounts are and to take a better look at what's happening with those two accounts. There was quite a few write-offs on two of them. And some,
You know to what those were?
I
mean, as far as just what?
yeah, so one location was on 133rd Lane and one location was on State Road 45. I provided the manager with the exact account numbers and the adjustments. So on page 10 of the audit, you'll see that on this first paragraph there, the math isn't working for me. So it states that it reads, eliminating the impact of the pension plan, the city's unrestricted net position would result in a deficit of 1.2 million. So when I look at the numbers, I have like 1.2 minus 568,000 gives me 630, and you have 1.2 million. I don't see how that works. So it should be
I'll have to check that out and
11907.
look and see.
Okay, and that's in the email that I sent you. Okay, page 19. My question here is, how can there be no net pension liability for the solid waste fund, but yet there were in prior years? What changed there?
In the solid waste,
Yeah.
you guys haven't. I don't have any personnel expenses in solid waste. You got so net pension liability is related to FRS retirement system, and so the state pension plan has a deficit, and so you have to reflect the city's portion of that deficit in the financial statements. And so funds where there are wages is how there's allocated. So there's no wages in the current year for personnel in solid waste fund. You can see that on page 20. And so no net pension liability was allocated to this fund because there were no wages.
So staff agreed that we didn't pay anyone out of that fund? I understand that the data provided to you shows that there was no salaries paid out, but did staff agree with that?
I mean, We're doing our best with the records that we're given, so it's not like we could try to go and recreate everything and try to figure out how much was or was not there, but as far as I understand, there was no wages charged to solid waste, because it was contract services, is it not?
Yes.
Yes.
Solid waste is waste product. Pass
We had, last year's audit, you had salary that flowed through the solid waste. Therefore, you had an entry here for what I just mentioned. So that's why when
It's-
I'm comparing a prior
possible.
year audit to this year's audit, when I see differences, that's my question, yeah.
Yeah, it's possible that in the prior year that there was some sort of allocation that the staff had done and put wages there that maybe should not have been there.
Okay.
That goes back to that finding about stuff being like the solid, the utility fund versus that, the general fund, and stuff being, commingled and stuff is still an issue from the prior year, and it is a finding that's repeated in this year, and so
Okay.
that could be part of the issue.
Okay, thanks. On page 21, I'm just not following the math. So my question is, well, no, hold on. I'm jumping ahead. So on page 21, what makes up the acquisition and construction of capital assets in the water fund? Am I correct by saying these were the payments to the engineer?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So this entry results in a zero net change in cash, which I'm not following that.
So, historically, the cash account has been located in the solid waste fund, and it probably technically should be allocated between the two funds, but it's just been put in that fund, and so that we've continued with that practice. So that's why there's a net change of zero there, because all of it is allocated to solid waste. If you look down at the bottom, you can see where it shows cash and cash equivalents reported in the water fund is zero, and for the cash and cash equivalent accounts, but there's only cash in the water fund is the meter deposit fund. So it's just an accounting function, really. Any cash balance is kind of like due to or from the solid waste fund, and the solid waste fund kind of floats that. And that might be something that could be decided internally. Hey, we think that that's better placed in the water fund and creates a clearer picture, and that might be a good thing to look at going forward.
Okay, thank you for explaining. Okay, on page 41. So I'm not saying I'm right on here, but from what I've researched, I'm coming up with different numbers here. So your assumptions, you're basing it off of the July 1st, 2024 publication from the Florida Retirement System Pension Plan, Appendix A. And I think historically, because we're in fiscal year 24's audit, that should have been based off of the 23, and therefore that changes your inflation and your salary increase assumptions there. So based on that publication, it should be inflation of 2.4 and payroll growth of 3.25. Your investment rate of return of 6.7 is correct. And again, that's used in 23's document. But if you look, it's almost like you agree with that, because then later on on pages 55, you're agreeing with the 23's rate of, sorry. Yeah, so if you look in like the third paragraph down, you're agreeing with the 2.4% payroll growth, yet you state on page 41 that it's 3.5. And then inflation, I'm sorry, you're agreeing with the payroll growth of 3.25 and inflation of 2.4. See what I'm saying?
It's something I could look at. I'd have to sit down and look at the documents to make sure, to see if that's correct or not.
And again, I'm going based on prior year audits, which document they're using for FRS pension plan document. And so, again, I'm assuming that this 24 should be using the 23. And then next year, you should be using 24. But either way, inflation for '24 is 2.4 according to them. It's not the 3.5 listed on page 41. So I think those, and I don't know if that trickles down into any changes in the calculations in the,
Yeah, I can assure you the calculations are absolutely correct. There might have been some potential, table update that maybe didn't get made in here at worst. But the calculations for sure are going to be right from the state's tool and updated with the data.
okay. Again, those questions are in the email to you, and I forwarded it to you again a couple times to put it back up on the top of your email. So if you
Yeah,
can respond.
I'll look at that and see about getting a response to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
At this point, with these questions that she's making public, would you put it out to all the commissions and get the emails from?
Okay, I'll send it to the city manager, and could he do that? Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I've been trying to do that, so if he sends that to me, I'll send it out to all of you. Cause the one responses that Commissioner Fiore got, I did copy everybody on that, so.
If we could just do that with these questions that have been made public tonight.
Absolutely. I will make sure that's done.
Questions, Mayor? That's great, I know, this revised one just came to us at 3:30 this afternoon. Thank you, Commissioner Fiore, for your diligence. Commissioner Kenny, do you have?
She kind of answered them because I wanted to know.
Commissioner Petty, can you put on your microphone?
I apologize. I kind of wanted to know what the miscellaneous kept popping up. What were the items or what was paid out? What was miscellaneous? How?
Yeah.
Because she was saying one was 11,000, and I kind of know one. I kind of want to know.
Yeah. I'll
What
say
that
this,
was.
as best as we could, all the larger items that we've seen in there, we did go to the bank statements and try to find out, from check images and stuff. And they all look like legitimate expenses as far as we could tell. Now, some of the smaller ones, take
What you
too
consider
much time to
small?
go check. But all the larger 11 and 16,000 amounts, we did go back and look to make sure, and it didn't look like it was fraud or anything like that on those large ones.
What? Say that again. I'm sorry.
Okay. What I was saying is that with those miscellaneous expenses, we looked at what we did have. They didn't charge them right, and we couldn't get backup to support them when we asked. But we were able to look in the bank statements and see, at least check for the larger items in there, like those amounts that were over 10,000. And we did find the check images in the bank statements that seemed to prove that it probably was not like fraudulent or anything like that. It was just lazy accounting, basically.
Okay. And some of the smaller ones, like 500 and less, like around 500 to 1,000. Was it a lot of miscellaneous in that area? Because like $500 to $1,000 a month is pretty good to me. Miscellaneous.
Fairly small
Oh,
miscellaneous expense.
yeah. It's not. We're not talking like over $5,000 and stuff that I couldn't identify.
Well, $1,000 a month is good to me. If somebody giving me an extra $1,000, I want to know. Because at the end of the year, it's 12.
May I jump in? Would you mind
Yeah,
if
go
I?
ahead.
So the items on the list are things like city signs, deposit return, petty cash, linked to Gov, deposit return. I mean, that's a train wreck, and that's still being done incorrectly. ACH return. So when you get a check return, like I mentioned, the loan payments. There's a couple of those. Water bills deposits, return charges, Ameris loan. Again, lazy. It was the best word for accounting. Not putting it to the right ledgers on a lot of these. Some items were only $50. Some items went up to $3,400. Some item was 11 cents. When I came on, one time I mentioned as in the audience that you should never have a miscellaneous GL. In my opinion, you should get rid of miscellaneous. There's always a home for something, and that would help solve this issue? That if you find a home instead of a dumping ground?
Any other questions? Any other questions? Commissioner Penny, review?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
I do have another question. There's reference to closed accounts that they were putting deposits to.
Oh, that was like an accounting ledger account. So like there was like a bank account that had been closed in the books that shouldn't have had any activity in it, but yet stuff was being charged to an old closed bank account instead of charged to the right account. It's probably a drop down there. When they clicked the cash account, they just picked an old account that had been closed and just started, putting.
So did staff reconcile it, moving it out of that into the correct fund for you for the audit, or did you have to take it upon yourself to put it in the correct funds?
Yeah, that was us having to fix things. Yeah.
Any others? Can you refer to the unrestricted fund balance for fiscal year '24? What page is that on?
I'm talking for general fund.
You know me, I'm the guy that wants the 10 or 15-year schedule of our general fund, water fund, and total for each fiscal year
Yeah,
ending
so
unrestricted fund balance.
we're talking page 16.
16, okay.
That's the governmental fund balance sheet.
Okay.
And you can see about midway through the page is the fund balance section. At the bottom of that, you have your unassigned fund balance of negative $448,000.
Okay, and how does that compare to last year?
Last
Do you remember
year,
what last year was?
I think we have a table in the financial analysis section. I hope it shows that.
And if not trying to put you on the spot,
No,
but
it doesn't show that right,
Right,
there.
you
And
know,
we,
the-
we can look it up, but I know that it's
the
definitely.
master schedule that I asked for last year, and then you updated it because it had errors from previous years going back to 2013. So you have record of that, where you went in as a new partner and principal and corrected those previous years. So I have it up to 2023 from you.
Oh, yeah.
And I just need to add 2024 to that, and could you send that to the city managers so that he can send it out to all the commissioners?
Okay, yeah.
That's just me Snoop Dogging, trying to keep up with our unrestricted fund balance as it ebbs and tides through the
Yep.
years, all right? Because just from my time in service here, the citizenry is always interested in seeing what that is as a form of security or insecurity in what's happening. So, in our recoveries and things like that, so. And I never did understand what was actually corrected from previous years. That concerned me some from Powell and Jones, not trying to put you on the spot, but when you went in as the new partner and principal, you were correcting for what Powell and Jones had done from previous years. This is the old one that I've got here. No problem, because it is what it is, but I need you to update it and send that for this fiscal year '24 as we
Okay.
continue the recovery for '25.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, could I?
Yes, sir.
A couple things. One, on the questions everybody's asking, and I know after this you're probably gonna have more if you think about them when you get home or look over it more. If you'll send me, like Commissioner Fiore did, any questions you have, even if you wanna send them directly to the auditor, that's fine. But I would appreciate it if you'd copy me on it, because I definitely want to make sure that whatever answers one, and when I say this, it's not an accusation, it's just I wanna make sure that whatever your questions are not only answered, but everyone has the benefit of that knowledge. So you can send them directly to the auditor. He's probably going to respond back to me anyway, but if you just copy me on them, I would appreciate that. And then I just want to, because Commissioner Fiore asked me a question, and I wanted to kind of comment on that. You know, I don't normally talk about, y'all don't know me that well still, but I don't normally talk about personnel issues too much in an open meeting, unless certain circumstances, but I need, because of the uniqueness of the situation, and this is not, I'm just telling it like I see it, with me potentially transitioning to Mr. Barber and him coming in and out, I just want to say this, the city has got, whoever's in this position, you're gonna have to make some decisions about how you want to staff the city in a certain way. My experience, and I've talked with Mr. Barber about this, so I'm just be open with you, because I want him, no matter how it works out, I want whoever's in this seat to have the best foundation they can have. And I don't think the way it's set up right now is working. And the auditor, I'm glad that he's here to, maybe he could speak to this, but I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but I'm just gonna tell it like it is. One of the reasons I couldn't answer Ms. Fiore's question is because you have someone doing the accounting that, I don't know what their background is, I'm not saying it's bad, but they're a staffing person, correct? And to me, they don't necessarily feel like they answer to the city manager. And I literally had a simple question I asked, and I don't know if I just caught the person in a bad way, but they literally walked out on me. And was gone for like 2 days. I talked to Mr. Barber about this, and I think it's been resolved. It's been a different situation now, but it happened on the day, it's just coincidental, but it happened at the same time that Tangi was out sick. So I think I kind of told, literally I was in this office by myself for almost 3 days, trying to answer phones and do everything I possibly could. And it is what it is. In my view, you need to consider moving to an independent accountant. I'm not talking about the auditors. That's totally independent and separate. But there are cities like yours, size, and I'm not trying to compare it to Hawthorne, it's just my most recent experience, that they have an independent person that comes in and does some basic accounting work. And then you have a billing clerk and a financial clerk and that type of thing. I haven't had a clerk, period, which is impossible to run a city long-term without a clerk. Now, I'm not trying to throw Miss Altop under the bus or anything. When she comes back, I'm sure that will be resolved. But trying to run it without an independent accountant and without a city clerk is extremely difficult. And so I really believe that what you should consider is to get an outside accountant. They'll come in, some of them work for like $100 an hour. Now that sounds like a lot, but there's no benefit package with that. And if you do that, what you're gonna have is you're gonna have a period of time where it's gonna cost you more than you want to pay for sure, because there's cleanup that's gotta be done. The auditors are not going to clean up anything. They're just gonna point out your deficiencies. Internally, the city has to clean it up. And so the front cost of that is gonna be a little bit higher. But then once they get it cleaned up, you're gonna have things like bank reconciliations that are done on a normal basis. And that probably takes to do all of that probably takes about 5 hours a week when you get it cleaned up. It just, as someone who's been on both sides of this, I don't want to harp on any one thing, but it flabbergasts me that you haven't had bank reconciliations done for like a year. It's hard for me to fathom that, because it just is. I've experienced a lot of different things, including city managers that stole while I was mayor, but I've never seen where basic little things like that aren't done. So I think what you're going to need to do, in my opinion, is to get an outside accountant. Then you have someone who's either the billing clerk and or financial clerk do the basic stuff, and with a direction between the city manager and this outside accounting person, and you'll find yourself at the end of the thing in a lot better shape with your budget and everything else. I just don't think staffing it where it's not clear that, because I was literally told that, this is all I'm going to do right here. And I could understand that coming from an accounting person, because I would never ask the accounting person that I was contracting with to answer like the telephones and stuff like that. But anybody who works and gets benefits from the city needs to be able to do whatever this person asked them to do. And if it's unreasonable, then it's unreasonable and they can talk about it. But to simply say, I'm not going to do that and I don't want to be talked to for like 5 hours at a shot, and then I'll talk to you afterwards. I mean, that's kind of what, I don't have any other way to say it, but out here in the open meeting, that's what I've been dealing with. So to me, you've got to at least look at cleaning that aspect of it up. And I say this, you know, I've not worked with Miss Altop. She's been very cooperative and all of that, so I'm not knocking her. But when she comes back, having a clerk will make a tremendous difference. But working without a clerk and an independent accountant firm, I've just been trying to keep our head above water. I'm sorry, I'm not trying.
Well, and I will ask you.
I'll be quiet on that.
No, I do have a question. You have reached out to Mr. Dallas Lee, who we've contracted in the past, but he has not provided any contractual service hours in months, correct?
Not since I've been here.
That you, I mean, when, in your discussion with him, because I think you did reach out to him and saying, what is the intent? I'm not putting him under the bus at all, but there's been no additional support service that we had relied on Mr. Dallas Lee in the beginning, assisting us on a month-to-month basis.
That is correct. I actually met with him. It was not a planned meeting, but I went to a manager's lunch, and it was in Newberry roughly a month ago, and I talked with him during the tour. We talked for quite a while afterwards, and I sent him an email basically trying to find out exactly what his contract, because I looked over his contract, what he believed he should do, and he basically told me that you know, if I had any questions, he'd be happy to answer them, but he kind of considered that he wasn't planning on coming back over here. That's what he said, literally word
In our
for word.
continued recovery and reconciliation catch-up, so therefore, that justifies what you're saying as a need there to fill that, so that we can.
Yeah, and in
Quickly get up
fairness
to
to him, and you know, when him working in that capacity at the city of Newberry, I'm sure that his hands are just full as it can be. And I will give Newberry credit when I reached out to them about the election. The new city clerk there has just gone through a training, and she's been extremely helpful to me in trying to make sure I got my I's dotted and T's crossed, because one thing I don't want to do is mess up something in election, because that would then certainly reflect poorly on the city, and I don't want to do that. So I think we're in good shape on that. I wasn't really going to talk about that, but at the same time, I might be saying something, I don't mean it to be negative about Mr. Lee, but they have been very helpful whenever I've asked him. But he's pretty much told me that he's pretty busy doing what he's doing and don't want to come back and do that unless if it's an emergency. I think he'd show up tomorrow. But I think we can resolve it internally, it's been a little bit awkward, and Mr. Barber's been really helpful to me as well, but it's been a little bit awkward because I don't want to make a lot of decisions about staffing and stuff like that when he's going to be coming in within the next couple of weeks. We're going to transition and all of that, but I just felt like that he should have more input on that when the time comes. And it's just kind of an awkward situation, but he's been extremely responsive and eager to be a part of it, and I have nothing. We've been working together really well, but it's still a little bit different when you're doing the day-to-day and this person is coming in later. It makes it a little bit tougher. So I'm sorry if I was long-winded, but I just want you to know that at some point you're going to have either me, Mr. Barber, or some combination come to you with a plan to resolve this. I don't have it at the moment. I know what it should look like, but basically, I don't know how else to say it. The audit was something I really focused a lot of time and energy on, making sure they were getting everything I could get to them. But the cleanup, I don't know how else to say it. You're not in compliance with anything when it comes to grants, when it comes to reports from St. John's Water Management to the state to there's zero compliance, and I'm working on that. We're compliant now more than we were, but there was zero compliance when I walked in the door. I can just tell you that. That might be more than you wanted to hear.
No, it's okay. Just puts our plan forward. This is more of a Scribner request. The first draft of the audit sent to the state was 1/16. Does it have that date on that audit? Does this revised one have the date of revision?
This
on
one
it?
has,
At the end or the beginning? I mean, and here's my request, that, you know, we're looking at draft one, we're looking at a revised draft now. There may be things you look at from questions asked tonight, there may be, you know, a
Yeah,
third. Would you please
we'll
put a
send it.
date on the cover sheet as revision 1, 2, and 3, or draft 1, 2, however you want to do it legally, but we need to have dates on these if we can, please.
So normally when we date an audit report, we date it whenever we have sufficient appropriate audit evidence for an
understand.
opinion, which in this case was a disclaimer of opinion, so it's a little
I understand.
different like that. So normally we keep the date on the audit report the same and we don't change it. If we want a revised report, I can send a revised report to the states. That way they have the most recent copy and I can send out a new one. But if you want me to say, you know, the date that I sent it on the PDF, so that way you can see, hey, this is the date of the report, then know that this is the.
Mr. Pearl, however you do it from CPA compliance with that set date that we set, but if we make changes in that report based on discussions or review this evening or whatever, somewhere it just needs to say review report on it with the new date.
Okay.
I just think it's critical, because I mean, there's gonna be 3 floating out here. So one on the website that's still on the website, not blaming you, but it's not been removed. Then this one's gonna go after our review and approval of it tonight. You'll take down the old one, put the new one up. I hate to call it new, but,
I certainly will, Mr. Mayor.
yeah, thank you.
Learning how to navigate the websites and
I understand.
I'm working on, I'm getting there.
Right.
But like I say, not having a clerk that normally, I'm not trying to throw it all off, but
Or cross-training.
cross-training people, there's been very little, if any, cross-training.
Absolutely, so,
That's gonna be resolved.
thank you. And again, that's just a Scrivener on my part, I mean, because my copies have got dates all over it, so, but I can see confusion coming our way as we post things public on a website, and it doesn't have some disclaimer report, this, you know, re-reviewed this date on this report from 1/16/26.
Of course.
Especially from the state, Big Brother coming back down, so. Any other questions or comments to Mr. Perla before we let him take a rest?
I do have one more
Yes,
question.
ma'am.
Has there been any talk about the 25 budget process timeline?
Are you talking,
Anybody? Has there been any conversation?
For beginning the audit?
Yeah.
For 25?
Mhm.
Not publicly at this dais, but do you have an availability recommendation, Mr. Perla, when you would like to be able to?
I mean, it really is dependent on the city and discussions of the fee for next year.
Okay. Because I mean, normally it's traditionally July with a report in September. Perfect world. But we certainly, if there are things that NOAA and team found that we could be working on sooner than later.
Mr. Martin, can you forward if you received a new contract amount?
Yep.
I've got their letter, I just received it, I'll forward it to you, but I was going to put it on the agenda at the next meeting as well,
Okay, thanks.
for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Does that answer your question regarding that? Okay. Questions from the constituency before we let you escape, Mr. Burrow? Thank you for your time and service.
Lori Costello, citizen. I would like the questions and answers, a copy of that from all the commissioners. Also, question is, what is transportation under fund balance? I think that was, 549,000. What is the transportation?
Yeah, would you like me to answer, or you got more questions?
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
got more questions. And the list of the assets, I imagine that includes all the property we have, vehicles, buildings, everything. Could I get a list of all the assets that come up to, what is that, 3 million?
I can provide that to the city manager, and I'm sure you could follow the normal public records request.
Okay, all right, and then miscellaneous expenses. Also, I was concerned about the holiday pay. Deanna gave me a report, and I think it was called employee summary. And some of our employees was getting almost double holiday pay. I mean, they should be getting the same holiday pay for that date that report came out, and everybody was getting a different paid holiday. Some was getting double, and I never could get a corrected one. Could I get a corrected one? Is there a corrected one? I don't even know if there's a corrected one.
That question is duly noted.
Okay, thank you.
So the transportation is the additional local option fuel tax. So you have your regular, I think it's, if I'm saying it right, 6 cent fuel tax, which can be used for transportation expenses. And then you have your new local option, which is in addition to that base fuel tax. And that tax has to be used for capital improvements for your transportation system. So you've been receiving the money but haven't been paving roads or anything, so that money is kind of like a piggy bank for a road paving project that you guys have not done yet.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any further questions?
Welcome, Ms. White.
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions and a piggyback on something. On the meter deposit, that's been $54 for the last 10 years, I think. There were 5 new homes built in Holly Hills last year. Something's not right. When you said that golly, I'm drawing a complete blank. I'll come back to that. I'm going to piggyback on Mr. Martin and also with Caleb. Could having 2 programs, the Edmonds program and the footbooks, be giving us a problem?
So anytime you have different systems integrating, there's always potential for issues. But using one software for your utility billing software and one for your accounting is often the case for small governments. I see it often where they'll use QuickBooks, like QuickBooks Desktop, for their accounting software, and then they'll have a billing software, whether that's RVS or others, and they just manually post transactions back and forth, or some of them have integrations where they can post back and forth. So it's not necessarily an issue if the accounting is stayed on top of, but it's just, having processes to make sure that those things are posting correctly and reviewing those. It goes back to the internal controls where there's massive weaknesses there, and so that would take care of it if it was kept on top of.
But if both our accounting and our water billing were both on Edmonds, it would be easier, probably?
It could be smoother, yeah.
That's what I thought. We're paying $32,000 a year for an Edmonds contract. We hire an accountant, we don't hire him, we contract with an accountant that doesn't know Edmonds, can't do Edmonds, which is kind of stupid, I think, because we're wasting. My water bill, and I talked to John about this last week, and he corrected it. My water bill for 2 years averaged $60 a month, water and garbage. In October of last year, my water bill went to $85. I said, okay, maybe I got a leak. I had Scott out. We had a small leak at my faucet. The next month it went to $65. In December, it went to $46. Then it went to $45 when y'all upped to the charges. This month it was $45. I don't believe it's our water biller, or I don't believe it's Tangi. I believe it's the system. Somehow our system is all messed up. We need somebody in there that knows Edmonds.
Thank you, ma'am.
And a good way to do that would be exactly what John was talking about.
Thank you. Anyone else? questions of Mr. Perla before he retires?
Oh, I'm sorry, I remember.
You had, yeah, you said you had some.
I did, I'm sorry. You said the IRS, at the end of the year, it had not been taken care of. But it has been taken care of now? It has. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Perla. We look forward to hearing your comments back once the questions are sent to you.
Okay,
Thank
sounds good. Thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you. I do have one more comment around the whole audit.
Process.
I would like to, I spoke with Mr. Martin, and I would like to work with him to come up with the next steps, which would be to address your findings in the audit and what the steps are going to be to make right on all those. I know Mr. Dallas Lee did a great job on responding to those findings last year. Unfortunately, we didn't go through with the actual steps to correct any of those. So a lot of those steps are already outlined, so I'm just letting the commission know that I plan to work with Mr. Martin on his, when he's available, to draft what those additional responses should look like, and I'm willing to help to implement those when Mr. Barber comes on. Best housekeeping, best practices that I really think we need to solidify with the city for sure. So I just wanted to put that out there that I'm planning on working with Mr. Martin.
Thank you. Anyone else? Calendar?
Just a reminder to everyone that we have the meeting at 6 o'clock in case, next Tuesday, in case people are wondering about the time, and I corrected it on the website. It wasn't a problem that Deanna did. It was because it's normally your youth commission, I think. But the school called me about a month ago, and I'm sorry I didn't inform you all this. I just kind of took care of it, that they're not going to meet again until April. And that's their decision. It has nothing to do with the city. It's just something internal there.
They're having their next meeting in the cafeteria or whatever as a training, is what I saw from the principal, which I thought was unique, but they're gonna have the other students observe how the junior council operates in the cafeteria.
So,
From a civics learning lesson or whatever, so I felt better, I felt bad that they weren't gonna, when I heard they weren't gonna meet, but they are gonna meet in February. And then,
But during school
uh-huh,
so that's why there was a discrepancy in that time, but it's been corrected, and it will be, the county knows about it, it will be at 6 o'clock. The way the meeting will be conducted is there'll be a joint meeting between the county and the city, and there's, I'll have the agenda for that done tomorrow and put up on the website. And then I guess the way you would normally do it is y'all have your meeting at 6, however long that lasts, and you'll adjourn that meeting, probably give them time to meet people a little bit.
10-minute break.
10-minute break, and then you'll reconvene as the Archer City Commission and conduct your regular business. That's, unless somebody tells me different, that's.
Yes, sir, with our regular agenda then for the rest of the evening, yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Okay. By consensus, we're good with that? And that's the way it will work?
Oh, and a quick, since you asked the calendar, the people have been wondering about the election. I will give you a full report. There'll be a resolution announcing all of the details of it at your next meeting, but we've got it well in hand, and I've already put the announcement of the election on the website. It will be, the actual election will be on the 14th of April.
Okay.
That's already out there. And there are 2 seats, I think it's 4 and 5, that are up. But the qualifying period, we'll announce that at the next meeting, but we've got all that documented and ready to go.
So what is that qualifying period, John? Did we determine what, is that start?
Yeah, I'm finalizing a couple of, you want to speak to that, Madam Attorney?
Yes, if I may. I've drafted the resolution that identifies the qualifying period, but we are checking with the supervisor elections. The 60th day before
Is that-
would be a Friday, and then the 45th day would be a Saturday. We're just checking with the supervisor of elections that they would be on that day, or do we back it up to the last business day of the city of Archer?
Okay.
But we'll have that answer
But
by
the
the,
qualifying period is that 15-day period that then leads to the 60th day before the election. That
Correct.
We've always got to do the magic numbers.
Yes.
Okay, and that'll be presented to us on the 9th?
It will, yes.
So qualifying has not begun today?
No, I did not put it on the website that it had. I just put the date of the election and the announcement of it.
So that's shortening then, if that qualifying doesn't happen until, I guess, when by resolution on the 9th, is what I'm hearing, Attorney Foles, that we'll approve that, and then the qualifying will begin.
Like the week after that. I'm trying to look up what I sent over to Mr. Martin to see what dates we had put in there.
Okay, and where I'm leading with my question is that shortens then that campaign period that much more. I mean, we're not giving
So right now we have February 13th through February 28th
for qualifying.
for qualifying.
And then the campaigning begins from the 28th.
And then the
until
election would be on April 14th.
14th. So, like I said, only 6 weeks or 5 weeks of campaigning. Okay. All right. All right. As long as that's agenda for the night for us
Yes.
to get correct. Okay, thank you very much. And Mr. Martin, just in that vein, you also got the okay from the supervisor elections on the dates of the letters that went out with what we were going to contract with them. It's now going to be 3, the city election, the primary, and then the midterm for this calendar year, correct? I mean,
Yes, I sent that information to them. They haven't sent me back specifically on that because they've been helping me make sure I get the
Right.
most current, but I think all of that will work out exactly
and
as
be
you
ready
said.
for signing on the 9th.
Yeah.
Because I haven't signed that agreement. That's.
I don't, I'll try to put it on there by then. I'll circle back with them and find out for sure.
I mean, and again, that's just me being OCD and anal and all that stuff that I am, but it's just, I haven't signed that agreement for that election, so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Martin, so I just recently went through this whole process and I had to navigate it on my own. So I would almost recommend, if you have a good contact with the Newberry individual, maybe that individual has a checklist with resources where you're supposed to go. The document that I was given, I was able to figure it out, but I was handed a pile of papers in Spanish. I mean, it wasn't very intuitive, so it would just probably make people's lives a little bit easier.
Well, Commissioner Friori, I appreciate you saying that. We're working on that specifically between the lady her name escapes me just at the moment, and my former clerk over in Hawthorne, who was the state president of the Clerks Association, Lakeisha Magruder. Between them, and then there's a lady that Mr. Barber is where we're gonna get all of that resolved for sure.
Thanks.
Okay. Any reports from commissioners? Anything to report other than the homework that you've been working?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I do want to thank the auditor and Mr. Martin, though. Mr. Martin's been keeping me up in the loop on things. I'm sure he's doing the same for you, and it's just refreshing that I can easily reach out to Mr. Martin and get answers, and he's very responsive, and I know he's putting in a ton of time. So thank you again, Mr. Martin.
Vice Mayor, anything?
Same, thank you.
Commissioner Penny? Okay. The only thing I did is I rode on the bus with Rosa Parks, whatever, last week, and hopefully we come home with something. Thank you, Mr. Barber, for having your presence up there as well, individually.
And movie night.
Yeah.
We went to movie
And
night.
movie night, it was low attendance, but I was very appreciative of the representation from Alachua Sheriff's Office, and Chad Scott, Sheriff Chad Scott was there, and so I asked, did they need anything, and they seemed to be okay about it. We didn't have enough lighting, but it's okay. It was watching a movie, so didn't have enough blankets to pass out.
I had to go home and get me a blanket. I
No.
don't play that cold stuff.
And I just think it's nice representation to have that kind of camaraderie, and it's like doing the hamburger and books thing in the summer or whatever in the park. It's just the same kind of thing. And the children seem to be having a nice time, so. That's all I have, so. Public comment period number 2. Anybody want to step up and ask any other questions or comments regarding the process tonight? Yes, ma'am.
I have not on the commission anymore, but I haven't left the city. I did tell Mr. Martin, if he was ever in City Hall by himself, that I would gladly come in here and answer a phone. I didn't know how welcome I'd be, but I would do it.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Thank
I would appreciate it if y'all would tell him it'd be all right. Thank you for what you have
Thank you.
done.
And I personally thank Steve. I mean, we talk about cross-training and stuff, but Steve in Public Works, but certainly cross-trained in the things he's doing. He's a very high value for us right now.
Could I give a very small report? Because I want to touch on that.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I wanted to make sure people understand, I wasn't insinuating, the staff, the people that's actually been here in Archer, they've been extremely cooperative and, they've been through a little bit of turmoil as well.
Absolutely.
And they've all tried to help me. It's not their fault that they don't have the cross training. So I can't blame them for that. So they've actually stepped up. Steve's a great example. I have to apologize sometimes to the guys out in the field because I've been so caught up with just keeping things happening in office that I ignored them a little too much. But we've talked and all, and I feel like things are better than they were before. And I say this all the time. My email is J, my initial J, and then Martin, J, Martin, at cityofarcher.com. Just send me an email. I know some people don't work with that, and I'll try to address any questions you have the best I can. Be patient though, because I've got a little learning curve too. I've never had to program a website, that kind of thing. I've been in elections, I've been around them, I've never actually put one on from a clerk. I tell you one thing, I am learning, I already appreciated them, but I'm learning to appreciate the clerk position, and that's not a knock on Miss Altop. She's been very cooperative, but it's a situation where they're not physically in the building. It's not easy to do this job without a clerk only, and that's not a knock on anyone, it's just a fact.
And additionally, not to do any remote work during her FMLA.
Correct. Try not to violate her FMLA and all that. It's been a tight war. But the good news is it'll be better for Mr. Barr. I'm joking with him, but
Yeah, the calendar's clicking, so.
I'm sure he's happy about that. But I've tried to keep him in the loop, and the conversations that we've had has been very good. So I got nothing negative to say about that at all.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else from the public? All right, we'll adjourn this meeting at 7:24 p.m. Thank you all very much for your attendance this evening. You didn't even have to pull out that phone.